Hello, it's Michelle from Stampin' Paper, and I'm back with another video using the Stamparatus. And today the card that we're going to be making is this one here with an ombre effect with a background stamp and a photopolymer greeting that's overstamped over the top, and a little paper flower that's almost like a lost technique. I haven't seen it used for ages. So that's what we're going to be making today. I've also got a couple of tips about using the Stamparatus with background stamps and something to help protect your magnets. So let's get started. The magnets with our Stamparatus are extremely strong. They live underneath here in these little places here. They're neodymium magnets, and if I get them too close together they will clash quite strongly. They'll pinch your fingers and they can break because they are made from a brittle metal. That they have to be brittle for the magnets to actually work. So one of the tricks I've heard about is covering your magnets in washi tape, and I actually decided to use duct tape, which is quite a bit stronger. So I prepared this one earlier, and I'm just going to demonstrate how I made that covering using a piece of duct tape that's about 8 centimeters long or so. You need it to be a fair bit longer than the actual magnet so that you can trim it down nice and straight. And it's very sticky, it's very strong, and what it will do is give us a little bit of almost like a handle. So I'm going to place it roughly halfway below the center line of the tape. And then I'm going to fold the tape over the top and seal down the sides, pressing it down nice and firmly. And then I can just take my Stampin' Snips and trim close to the edge. And they're magnetic as well, but I'm managing just to keep them away from the scissors. Okay, so that will give us a little bit more protection for our magnets and also a little handle to grab them with. So that's another trick you might like to use with your magnets. And we can still keep them back in here. It actually makes it easy to get them out as well. So pop those in nice and safe. Alright, so the stamps we're going to be using are both retired, sadly, but you might have them in your collection, because I don't have very many background stamps in the cling rubber because I prefer the wood. This one, I Love Lace, was a favourite. And this is a photopolymer stamp set with a really large greeting. The thank you is what we're going to be using today. Alright, so I'm going to start with the background. So because it is a rubber cling mount stamp, we don't need the black sheet, so we can pop that aside. However, I'm wanting to stamp the whole background stamp, and it's only slightly bigger than the piece of cardstock that I want to stamp onto, and I don't want to get ink all over the base of my Stamparatus. So I'm going to take a silicone mat and pop that in there. And because I want to be able to get really close to this edge to get a nice stamp impression, I'm going to use the little corner jig that I showed you in a previous video to act as a set out, so that my cardstock is actually going to sit about an inch away from the hinge area, which means I'm easily going to be able to get good pressure around these edges of the stamp, which is important if you've got quite a solid background stamp. So the next step is to lay this stamp over the cardstock, and one of the things you'll notice is that Australian cardstock sizes are a little bit longer than the size you would have with the letter sized US cardstock. So it doesn't matter because I'm going to be trimming this down anyway. So I'll place my stamp where I want it to be and peel that up. And as long as I've got my cardstock firmly butted up against this corner, it's exactly the same as having it up here. And I haven't got space for magnets either, so this is going to be what tells me the position it needs to be in. Okay, so the colours that we're going to use are, from the top to the bottom, powder pink, crisp cantaloupe, flirty flamingo, and calypso coral, because I thought they blended nicely together. Okay, so the trick with this technique is to use the lightest colour first and give it a whole all over coating with that lightest colour. Get a good coverage. That means that if you miss a little bit, you're still going to have some colour there rather than a blank spot. So the next colour is crisp cantaloupe, and I'm just going to take a sponge and pick up some ink. And I've roughly divided it into quarters, so I know that the top quarter is going to be powder pink. So I'm going to start my next band of colour about here. And if I jig it up and down a little bit, I'm going to get a nice blend between the powder pink and the crisp cantaloupe. Again, you want good coverage. Okay, next colour, flirty flamingo. So this is 3/4 down. And the sponge edges will kind of blend it into the previous colour. And the final colour, calypso coral. Okay, so you can see that if I put this whole stamp down over the top of here, it's actually slightly bigger than the cardstock, so I'd get ink everywhere. So by using the silicone sheet, I've got an easy clean wipe off surface, and I don't have to worry about getting ink in anywhere in the wrong places. Bring our stamping plate down over the top. Now, if you've got your old brayer, it's a great tool to get beautiful even pressure. This was a great trick using background stamps, would mount any kind of background stamps. And there we go. Okay, the next stamp that we're going to use is a photopolymer stamp to apply the greeting over the top. I'll take that away, but I still need my little corner piece here. And my card is going to go slotting straight back there where I want it. Put my second plate in place and grab this giant thank you stamp. Okay, it's quite nicely stained, which is helpful so I can see where it's going to go. And when I'm happy, press the second plate down. And pick it up. And again, photopolymer is sticky, so it will cling much more than the rubber. But I know that's where it belongs, so I'm not even really needing to use my magnets for this one. Alright, I'm going to put basic black ink. If you hold your hand underneath the stamping plate, it gives you a nice even application of ink. Press that down. And the brayer over the top. There we are. Okay, so that forms the front panel of the card. I trimmed down, matted in black. So I'm just going to show you how to make this little flower. I've used the pansy punch to punch 3 shapes out from Floaty Flamingo, Powder Pink and Calypso Coral. Now if you still have your trusty old crimper, this is a quick and easy way to get these papers ready for the next step. So by slotting them into the crimper and sliding them backwards and forwards several times, what I'm doing is breaking the paper fibres, and that makes them easier to pull apart, which is the next step. Now if you don't have a crimper, you can use your bone folder. Just have to carefully take the punch shapes and slide them backwards and forwards over the edge, to be gentle so that you don't tear the petals off. And this is breaking the paper fibres. You go both ways, and when they're ready you'll see them start to delaminate almost by themselves. The crimper is by far the fastest way. So dig out some of those neglected tools and give them a go. And if I carefully peel apart now, I get 2 beautiful suede effect layers, and it makes the paper much more pliable, almost like velvet. When you're tearing them apart, just be careful when you get to the corners, because that's where it will tear if you're a bit too bull at a gate. Alright, so that's 4 layers. You can make these flowers as thick as you like, but even 3 layers is enough for something on the front of a card, especially if it's going in the post, because you don't want it too thick. Okay, so we have some layers there. Just take 1 of each colour, put them however you like. And I'm going to poke a hole through the centre with a piercing tool and grab a little brad just to hold them together and slide that through the centre of the paper flowers. Well, they're quite flat. So when I pull up the petals and squish them very scientifically, I create a soft paper embellishment. Like so. And for the centre, I'm going to use one of the gold faceted gems to pop in the centre. Now, another useful technique for your piercing tool is to remove these kind of embellishments from the backings. So now I have it on the end there. I can carefully open it up again, press down my gem into the centre, and then reshape my ruffled flower over the top, ready to place on my card with a Stampin' Dimensional or similar. So that's a little paper flower you can make with some quick punch shapes, very quick and easy embellishment, and an ombre effect with a background. I hope you've enjoyed watching. If you liked this video, perhaps you would like to subscribe to my channel, Stampin' Paper, and every now and again I'll have a new video for you. Thanks again for watching. Goodbye.